The brush moved slower than a heartbeat. Shurith had learned patience across 40 years on this dead world, but her hands still trembled as she cleared the last layer of ancient dust. What lay beneath should not exist. Nothing should survive 3 billion years. Yet here it was, a skull made entirely of crystal, glowing faintly from within, perfect as the day it was created. She was Valorian, a species known for calm logic, but tears rolled down her gray cheeks. Her entire career, her entire life, had led to this single moment on a planet called Ossuary, 7 that the world itself was a graveyard. Fossilized remains of buildings stretched across every continent. Something magnificent had lived here once, something so old that their son had died and been replaced twice since their passing. The Galactic Archaeological Council had maintained a research station here for over a century, finding only fragments and dust. Until now, Shurith activated her communicator with shaking fingers. Director Ometh, you need to see this immediately. The response came within seconds. What have you found? Everything, she whispered. I think I found everything. Within an hour, the skull sat in the secure research chamber at Site Primordial. Shurith watched through the observation window as scanners moved across its surface. The readings made no sense. The crystal contained structures that looked like neural pathways. Energy flowed through them in patterns that suggested thought. This was not just an artifact. This had been alive. Perhaps it still was. Director Ometh stood beside her, his Peloran features tight with barely contained excitement. He was a politician more than a scientist, always thinking about funding and recognition. But even he understood the weight of this discovery. 3 billion years, he said softly. The pre-March civilization. We finally have proof they existed. We have more than proof, Shurith replied. We have a piece of them. Other scientists arrived over the following days. Representatives from 12 different species, all eager to study the find. They took turns approaching the skull, running scans, speaking to it, trying to trigger some response. The crystal remained still. Its inner glow pulsed steadily, but it showed no reaction to any of them. Counselor Dreen, a metholid historian with deep knowledge of ancient cultures, spent hours simply sitting before the skull in meditation. They believed it was waiting for something. Everyone else thought they were being mystical. Ravi Sharma arrived on the 4th day, completely unaware of what had been discovered. He was human, a cargo handler for a freight company that supplied remote research stations. Ossuary 7 was just another stop on his route. He had been doing this job for 6 years, ever since leaving his small hometown in northern India to see the galaxy. The galaxy, he had discovered, was mostly empty space and paperwork. Delivery for Site Primordial, he announced at the loading dock. 14 crates of equipment, 7 containers of food supplies, and 1 very confused shipment of laboratory mice that I think were meant for a different station. The dock worker barely looked at him. Everyone seemed distracted, excited about something happening in the main building. Ravi shrugged and began unloading. He had learned not to ask questions. Scientists were always excited about something. The IT took him 3 hours to move everything. The last few crates were marked for the central research chamber, so he loaded them onto a hover cart and followed the directions on his tablet. The chamber doors opened, and Ravi stepped inside, pulling the cart behind him. Every instrument in the room screamed. Alarms blared. Screens flashed red. Scientists scrambled away from their stations in shock. Ravi froze, certain he had broken something expensive and irreplaceable. Then he saw the skull IT was rotating. Slowly, deliberately, the crystal artifact turned on its containment platform until it faced him directly. Its empty eye sockets seemed to look right through him. The glow inside intensified from soft blue to brilliant white, and then it bowed. The skull tilted forward in a gesture so clearly intentional, so obviously meaningful, that no one could mistake it for anything else. It was showing reverence. It was showing respect. T-O-M-T-O, a cargo handler from Earth. What, Ravi said very quietly, is happening right now? No one answered. Shurith stared at him with an expression that mixed wonder and terror. Ometh was already reaching for his communicator, no doubt planning to call every authority in the sector. The other scientists simply stood frozen, their understanding of reality crumbling before their eyes. The skull's energy output climbed higher. Scanners detected a transmission signal. The artifact was sending something out into space. It was calling to others. Then a voice emerged from the crystal. Synthetic, ancient, but perfectly clear. It spoke a single word in Galactic Common, a language that had not existed when this artifact was made. Finally, Ravi dropped the handle of his cart. It clattered against the floor, impossibly loud in the silence. I think, he said slowly, someone needs to explain what I just walked into. But the skull was not finished. It spoke again, and this time its words carried the weight of 3 billion years of waiting. You are here. After so long, you are finally here. The crystal pulsed with light, and somewhere across the galaxy, other things began to wake. Silence had a weight to it. Ravi learned this as he sat in a chair, surrounded by beings who looked at him like he was either a miracle or a threat. The research chamber had been sealed. Armed guards stood at every door, and the skull continued to glow, its eyeless gaze never leaving him. I just deliver cargo, he said for the 5th time. I do not know why it reacted to me. Shurith knelt beside him, her gray Valorian features soft with something close to kindness. Tell us about yourself. Everything. Where you were born, what you have done, your family history. Anything might help us understand. Ravi laughed weakly. I am from a village near Shimla. My father sold vegetables. My mother taught primary school. I joined a freight company because I wanted adventure. That is my entire life story. Nothing special. And yet, Director Ometh said from across the room, an artifact older than our sun chose to acknowledge you. The skull pulsed brighter, as if agreeing. Representatives from other species had gathered along the chamber walls. Ravi could feel their suspicion. A Krellian diplomat whispered to his aide. A Methalid priest clutched religious texts. Everyone had theories. Humans had planted the artifact. Humans had technology they were hiding. Humans were manipulating the galaxy. Ravi had barely passed his ship licensing exam. He did not know how to manipulate anything. Counselor Dreen stepped forward, their methalid form flowing like liquid silver. Perhaps we should ask the artifact itself. It spoke once. It may speak again. Everyone turned to the skull. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the glow shifted, patterns moving through the crystal like thoughts across a mind. The voice emerged again, stronger now, more confident. It was learning how to speak. I'm a witness. I was created to wait, to watch, to remember, and when the time came, to greet those who were promised. Shurith stepped closer. Who created you? The Primarchs? Yes. My makers lived when the universe was young. They built civilizations across 1,000 galaxies. They understood time in ways you cannot imagine. They could see the shape of things to come. And what did they see? Ometh demanded. The skull's glow intensified. They saw their own end. They saw the emptiness that would follow. And they searched through all possible futures for something that could carry on after them. Most species they observed would rise and fall, leaving nothing behind. But there was one kind that appeared again and again across every probability, every timeline. They called them the persistent ones. Robbie's stomach dropped. He already knew what was coming. Humans, the witness said, you're kind. The Primarchs saw you coming billions of years before your world formed. They watched your potential unfold across countless futures. And they created us to wait for you. The chamber erupted. Alien voices rose in anger, disbelief, fear. Ravi sat frozen as arguments exploded around him. This cannot be real. He was nobody. Humanity was nobody. They had only reached the stars a few centuries ago. They were considered young and primitive by galactic standards. Why? Shurith shouted above the noise. Why humans specifically? The witness waited until the room quieted. When it spoke again, its voice carried something almost like affection. The Primarchs observed millions of species across billions of years. Most gave up when faced with impossible odds. They accepted their fate. They faded, but humans did not. In every simulation, every projected future, Your species refused to die. You lost worlds and built new ones. You faced extinction and survived through pure stubbornness. The Primarchs called this quality the refusal. Your complete inability to accept defeat. That is not a gift, the Krellian diplomat said coldly. That is foolishness. Perhaps, the witness replied, but it is why you will still exist when other species are forgotten. It is why the Primarchs chose you to inherit what they could not keep. Ravi found his voice. Inherit what? Knowledge. Technology. Weapons against the darkness that consumed my makers. Everything they learned across their existence, preserved within the witnesses, waiting for you to claim it. The room went very still. There are others. Shurith asked. Other witnesses? Hundreds. Scattered across this galaxy and beyond. All sleeping. All waiting. When this one woke, it sent a signal. The others are waking now. Ometh was already calculating. Ravi could see in his eyes. Power. Influence. Control. The political implications were staggering. I want none of this, Ravi said quietly. The witness turned its attention fully to him. What you want does not change what you are. The Primarchs did not choose humanity because you deserved it. They chose you because you would still be trying when everyone else had stopped. That is not a burden. That is simply who you are. Ravi stood slowly. His legs felt weak. His mind was spinning. He was a cargo handler. He delivered boxes. He was not meant to carry the hopes of an ancient civilization. I need air, he said. I need to think. Take all the time you need, the witness replied. I have waited 3 billion years. I can wait a little longer. But as Ravi walked toward the door, the skull spoke one final time. Soon I will ask you to touch me. When you do, I will show you what my makers saw. I will show you why they believed in your kind. And then you will understand why you cannot walk away. The doors closed behind him, but the weight of those words followed him into the corridor and did not let go. 3 days passed. Ravi spent them hiding in the cargo bay of his own ship, eating ration bars, and pretending the universe had not just turned upside down. His employer had ordered him to stay until the situation was resolved. The galactic authorities had sealed the entire planet. No one was leaving. He missed his grandmother. She had raised him after his parents died in a transport accident. She was 93 now, living in the same village where she was born, and she would have known exactly what to say about ancient prophecies and cosmic destinies. Probably something about finishing his vegetables first that a knock on the cargo bay door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to find Shurith standing there, looking as exhausted as he felt. The witness is asking for you again, she said. I know. Will you come? Ravi looked at her. She was hundreds of years old, a scientist who had devoted her existence to understanding the past. And now she was asking a young human cargo handler to help her make sense of it. Why does it want me? He asked. There are other humans on this station. Researchers. Important people. Why not them? Shurith hesitated. We tested that. The witness acknowledges all humans, but it only responds to you. We do not know why. Perhaps you were simply the first human it saw. Perhaps there is something else. She paused. The witness says it does not matter. It says you are enough. Enough for what? Ravi wondered. But he followed her anyway. The research chamber was crowded with observers now. Diplomats from 30 species had arrived, all demanding answers. Security had tripled. The skull sat in its containment field, glowing steadily, waiting. When Ravi entered, the glow brightened. The witness oriented toward him like a flower turning toward the sun. You have returned, it said. I did not have much choice. There is always choice. That is the first truth my makers understood. Even in the face of certain death, choice remains. It is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. Ravi approached slowly. The crowd parted around him. He could feel their eyes, their fear, their hope. He was carrying something too heavy for one person, and they all knew it. You said you would show me what your makers saw, he said. I think I am ready. Are you certain? The visions are not gentle. You will see billions of years. You will see things that will change how you understand yourself and your species. Ravi thought about his grandmother again. She always said that running from truth only made it chase you harder. Better to turn and face it. Show me, he said. The witness pulsed. Touch me, Place your hand upon my surface and open your mind. Ravi reached out. The crystal was cool against his palm, smooth as water, old as time. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the universe exploded behind his eyes that he saw Earth before Earth existed. He saw the dust cloud that would become his sun. He saw the Primarchs, beings of light and thought, watching the probability streams with eternal patience. They were beautiful. They were dying. And they were looking for hope. Timeline after timeline unfolded before him. Species rose and fell. Civilizations bloomed and withered. The Primarchs tracked them all, searching for the pattern that would not break. Then they found humanity. Ravi saw his ancestors crawling from the oceans. He saw them standing upright on the plains. He saw them failing over and over, facing ice ages and famines and disasters that should have ended them. But they kept coming back. Every simulation the Primarchs ran, every future they projected, humanity survived. Not because they were strongest, not because they were smartest, but because they simply would not stop. He saw futures that had not happened yet. Humans on worlds orbiting stars that did not exist. Humans changing form, evolving, transcending flesh itself. But something essential always remained. That stubborn core that refused to accept the end. The Primarchs called it the refusal. And they had never seen anything like it. Tears streamed down Ravi's face. He saw the Primarchs making their decision. They could not save themselves, but they could leave something behind. The witnesses, the knowledge, the weapons. All for a species that would not exist for 3 billion years. They did it on faith. Pure, absolute faith in creatures they would never meet. The vision faded. Ravi found himself on his knees, the skull still glowing beneath his hand. The room was silent. Every being present had seen fragments of what he saw, echoes transmitted through the witness. Why us? Ravi whispered. We are not special. We are just stubborn. That is exactly why, the witness replied. Stubbornness in the face of a cold universe is the rarest gift of all. Most species accept their fate. You rage against it. You build boats in floods. You plant gardens in deserts. You love even when love brings pain. This is what my makers saw. This is what they preserve themselves for. Ravi looked up at the crowd. He saw Shurith weeping. He saw hardened diplomats trembling. He saw beings who had distrusted humanity now looking at him with something new in their eyes. The gifts within the witnesses, he said slowly. They're not just for us, are they? They are for whoever you choose to share them with. My makers believed that was the final test. Power offered freely is power that can save everyone. Power hoarded destroys the one who holds it. Ravi understood then. The Primarchs had not chosen humanity to rule. They had chosen humanity to give. He just had to figure out how. The galaxy was not taking the news well. Reports flooded in from every corner of known space. Other witnesses were waking. On mining worlds and colony planets, in museum vaults and forgotten ruins, crystal skulls were activating. And every single one bowed when humans approached. Some species celebrated. Others rioted. The Krellian Empire demanded the witnesses be destroyed. The Peloran hegemony called for immediate quarantine of all human populations. Smaller species, long oppressed by the galactic powers, saw an opportunity and began reaching out to Earth. Ravi watched the chaos unfold from the observation deck of Site Primordial. Ships filled the sky above Ossuary 7. Diplomatic vessels. Military cruisers. News drones broadcasting to trillions of viewers. Everyone wanted a piece of this moment. You should eat something, Shurith said, appearing beside him. I'm not hungry. You have said that for 2 days. She pressed a ration pack into his hands. The witness needs you strong. Whatever comes next, you will be at the center of it. Ravi opened the pack mechanically. The food tasted like nothing. What do you think happens now? Shurith considered the question. War, possibly. Fear makes people dangerous. Some will want to control the witnesses. Others will want to destroy them. And some will want to destroy humanity before you can access whatever the Primarchs left behind. That is not very comforting. I am a scientist, not a counselor. Comfort is not my specialty. But she sat down beside him anyway, her presence warm and steady. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I might not answer. Why did the vision make you cry? What did you see that affected you so deeply? Ravi was quiet for a long moment. I saw how much they hoped. The Primarchs. They were dying. Their civilization was ending. Everything they built was crumbling. And they spent their final years creating gifts for strangers who would not exist for billions of years. They had no guarantee we would ever find the witnesses. No guarantee we would be worthy. But they did it anyway. He looked at her. My grandmother does the same thing. She plants trees she will never sit under. She saves money for grandchildren she might never meet. I always thought it was just something old people did. Now I realize it is the most human thing there is. Shurith nodded slowly. Perhaps it is why they chose you specifically. Not because you are special, but because you understand why hope matters. Before Ravi could respond, alarms began screaming. They ran to the command center, pushing through crowds of panicked personnel. Director Ometh stood at the main display, his face pale. The screen showed something emerging from deep space. Not ships, something else. What is that? Ravi demanded. We do not know, Ometh said quietly. Long-range sensors detected it an hour ago. It is moving faster than anything we have ever recorded, and it is heading directly for this planet. The witness's voice filled the room. It had not spoken publicly since Ravi's vision, but now it broadcast through every speaker in the station. They have come, the ones who destroyed my makers. The Hollow. Ice ran through Ravi's veins. The Primarchs were killed? I thought they died naturally. They were hunted. The Hollow are ancient, older than my makers, older than stars. They consume civilizations. They erase history. They leave nothing behind but silence. The Primarchs fled them for millions of years before finally making their stand here. They lost, but before the end, they created us. They hid us. They hoped we would survive long enough to give our gifts to those who could fight back. The display updated. The approaching objects resolved into shapes. Vessels made of compressed darkness, trailing fields of dead light. There were hundreds of them. Can we fight them? Someone asked. Not with your current technology. The Hollow have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. The witness paused. But the gifts within us include weapons. Shields. Knowledge that can level the field. If they are unlocked, then unlock them, Ometh shouted. Give us the weapons. I cannot. Only a human can access what we hold, and only if they choose to share it with all species equally. That was my maker's final condition. The gifts cannot be hoarded. They must be given freely or not at all. Every eye in the room turned to Ravi. No pressure, he muttered. The choice must be made soon. The witness continued. The Hollow will arrive within 6 hours. After that, there will be no one left to choose. Ravi looked at the approaching darkness. He looked at the aliens around him. Many had shown him suspicion and fear. Some had called for his species to be controlled or destroyed. They did not trust humanity. They might never trust humanity, but his grandmother planted trees for strangers. And the Primarchs had given everything for species they would never meet. Maybe that was the whole point. Maybe trust had to start somewhere. Tell me what I need to do, he said. The witness glowed brighter. Come to me. Place both hands upon my surface. Open your heart to the galaxy, not just your mind, and give freely what was freely given to you. Ravi walked toward the research chamber. Behind him, the darkness grew closer. The walk to the research chamber felt like crossing an ocean. Every step brought new weight. Ravi passed diplomats who had called him fraud, scientists who had demanded his imprisonment, soldiers who had been ordered to kill him if he became a threat. Now they all stepped aside, their eyes filled with desperate hope. Shurith walked beside him. She had not asked permission. She simply came. You do not have to do this, she said quietly. We could find another human, someone more prepared, someone who actually wants this responsibility. There is no time, and I do not think it matters who does it. The witness said any human can unlock the gifts. It just has to be done. He managed a weak smile. Besides, I always wanted to do something important. I just expected it to involve less ancient prophecy. They entered the chamber. The skull waited on its platform, glowing like a small sun. Around it, screens displayed the approaching Hollow fleet. For hours remained. The dark vessels had slowed, spreading into formation. They were not rushing. They had all the time in the universe. "I am here," Ravi said. "I know," the witness replied. "I have been waiting for this moment since before your ancestors drew their first breath. Do you understand what you are about to do? I'm going to unlock the gifts. Share them with everyone. Give the galaxy a fighting chance." "Yes, but there is something you should know first. The transfer will not be painless. The knowledge of billions of years will flow through you. Your mind will be the channel through which the Primarch's legacy passes to all species. Some of that knowledge may stay with you. Some may change you. I cannot promise you will be the same person afterward." Ravi's hands trembled. "Will I survive?" "I do not know. The Primarchs designed this for a human, but they never tested it. You're the first. You may also be the last." The room was silent. Ravi looked at Shurith. She was crying again, silver tears rolling down gray cheeks. "My grandmother would tell me to stop being dramatic and get on with it," he said. "Your grandmother sounds wise. She is. She also cheats at cards, but do not tell anyone." He stepped forward and placed both hands on the skull. The crystal was warm now, almost alive. He could feel it humming against his palms, centuries of patience vibrating through his bones. "Open your heart," the witness instructed. "Think of everyone you want to save. Not just humans. Everyone. The Valorians who dig through ancient dirt searching for meaning. The Krellians who fear what they do not understand. The Palorans who scheme and plot because they have never known safety. The small species, the forgotten species, the ones who never get seats at the great tables. Think of them all, and want them to live." Ravi closed his eyes. He thought of Shurith, spending 40 years on a dead world because she believed the past mattered. He thought of the dock worker who had ignored him when he arrived, just a tired person doing a job. He thought of the Krellian diplomat who had accused him of conspiracy, acting from fear rather than hatred. He thought of his grandmother, planting trees, and he wanted them all to live. The universe cracked open. Light poured through him. Not into him, but through him, like water through a broken dam. He felt the Primarch's knowledge flooding outward, seeking minds across the galaxy. Technology, science, art, philosophy. 3 billion years of learning, compressed into a single infinite moment. He saw the other witnesses activating fully, their gifts unlocking simultaneously. On 100 worlds, beings gasped as understanding filled their minds. A Valorian engineer suddenly knew how to build shields that could stop stars. A Krellian doctor understood diseases that had plagued her species for millennia. A Paloran general saw tactics that had won wars before planets formed. The knowledge was not just for experts. A child on a farming moon learned why crops failed and how to save them. An elderly janitor understood the mathematics of happiness. A grieving widow saw that death was not an ending, just a change. And through it all, Ravi felt himself stretching. His consciousness expanded to touch trillions of minds. For one impossible moment, he was connected to everyone. He felt their fear, their hope, their love for families and friends and strangers they would never meet. He felt how much they all wanted to live. The Hollow were not going to take that from them. The transfer completed. The light faded. Ravi collapsed to his knees, shaking, tears streaming down his face. He was still himself. Changed, but still himself. "It is done," the witness said softly. "The gifts are given. The galaxy is armed." Around Ossuary 7, the gathered fleets began to move. Ships that had been enemies an hour ago now flew in formation. They carried weapons that had not existed before Ravi opened his heart. They understood tactics that no species had invented. And at the center of it all, a cargo handler from a small village in India knelt before an ancient skull and laughed through his tears. "My grandmother is never going to believe this," he said. "Perhaps," the witness replied. "You should survive to tell her." The Hollow had arrived, and for the first time in 3 billion years, someone was ready to fight back. The battle for Ossuary 7 began in silence. The Hollow did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They simply attacked, pouring darkness toward the gathered fleets like ink spreading through water. Ravi watched from the observation deck as shields flared to life across 1,000 ships. Weapons that had not existed an hour ago fired beams of compressed light. The Primarch's knowledge was already being used, already saving lives, but the Hollow were ancient. They had consumed civilizations for longer than stars had burned. They adapted, they learned, and they were very, very patient. "We are holding them," Shurith said, monitoring the tactical displays. "But barely. Their numbers seem infinite." "They are not infinite," the witness replied through the station speakers. "But they are many. More than the fleets gathered here could defeat alone." Ravi turned from the window. "What else can we do? I gave everything. The gifts are unlocked. You gave the knowledge. But knowledge alone does not win wars." The Primarchs understood this. They prepared one final gift, held in reserve until the moment it was most needed. The skull's voice grew softer. "But it requires a sacrifice." "What kind of sacrifice?" "The witnesses were built to contain the Primarch's legacy. We hold their memories, their wisdom, their very essence. If that essence is released, it will burn through the Hollow like fire through shadow. But we will be destroyed in the process. All of us. Every witness across the galaxy." Ravi felt his heart clench. "You would die. We have already lived longer than we ever expected. 3 billion years of waiting, hoping, believing. And now we have seen what we waited for. A human who chose to save strangers. A galaxy learning to stand together. Our makers will be proud." The skull's glow pulsed gently. "We are ready." Shurith stepped forward. "Is there no other way? The knowledge you contain, the history, the culture, it will be lost forever." "Not forever. We have already passed our knowledge to living minds. The Primarchs will be remembered. Their story will be told. That is enough." The witness paused. "But we cannot release ourselves. The final gift must be chosen by the one who unlocked the others. It must be given, not taken." Ravi understood. The Primarchs had built choice into everything. Even their own destruction required consent. "If I say yes, will it definitely stop the Hollow?" "Nothing is certain, but the probability is high. Our essence is the opposite of what the Hollow are. They are emptiness, hunger, the void between stars. We are memory, meaning the light that refuses to fade. When we meet, both may be destroyed." Outside, a Valorian cruiser exploded. The Hollow were pushing through the defensive lines. Time was running out. Ravi closed his eyes. He thought of his grandmother. She had given him everything she had, expecting nothing in return. She had planted trees for strangers. She had loved without condition. This was no different, just bigger. "Do it," he said. "Release yourselves. Save them all." "Thank you," the witness replied. And for the first time, its voice carried something like joy. "Thank you for being what our makers believed you would be." Across the galaxy, witnesses began to shine on Osuri 7. The skull blazed with light so bright that Ravi had to shield his eyes. He felt the Primarch's essence flowing outward, carrying 3 billion years of hope and memory and stubborn refusal to accept the darkness. The light hit the Hollow fleet like a wave. Darkness screamed. Ships of compressed shadow unraveled, their forms dissolving as the Primarch's essence burned through them. The void that had consumed civilizations met the light that had waited epochs, and both were transformed. When Ravi's vision cleared, the Hollow were gone. Not destroyed exactly, but scattered, broken into fragments too small to threaten anyone. The gathered fleets floated in empty space, their crews staring in disbelief at the victory they had never expected. The skull was dark. Ravi walked to the containment platform and knelt beside it. The crystal was still there, but the glow was gone. The presence that had guided him, challenged him, believed in him, had faded with the light. "Thank you," he whispered. The skull did not answer. It would never answer again. But in his mind, Ravi felt something. A warmth, a gentle pressure, like a hand on his shoulder. The witness was gone, but the Primarch's belief remained. They had seen humanity coming across the probability streams. They had waited billions of years for this moment, and they were not disappointed. Shurith found him still kneeling there an hour later. The fleets outside were organizing rescue missions, treating wounded, celebrating survival. The galaxy had changed forever in a single day. The other witnesses are gone too, she said quietly. All of them. Every world reports the same thing. The crystals remain, but they are just crystal now. Ravi nodded. They chose this. They wanted to give everything one last time, like someone else I know. He looked up at her. I just made a decision. They did the actual work. Decisions matter more than you realize. The Primarchs could have given their gifts to anyone. They chose to make it require choice. Because they understood that the act of choosing to help others is what makes the help meaningful. Ravi stood slowly. His legs ached. His head pounded. He had been awake for over 30 hours. But he was alive. The galaxy was alive. What happens now, he asked. Now we rebuild. We learn. We take the gifts we were given and try to be worthy of them. She smiled at him. And you go home and tell your grandmother the most unbelievable story she has ever heard. Ravi laughed. It felt good to laugh. Behind him, the dark skull sat silent on its platform. It had waited 3 billion years to bow to a human. And in the end, it had given everything so that humans could bow to it in return. Some gifts are too large to repay. They can only be passed on. Ravi walked toward the door, already thinking about trees that would grow long after he was gone.